Lieutenant Commander Data has the curiosity of humans. When Counselor Troy is unhappy, she usually eats some chocolate. And Q can't disappear any more than Worf can win a beauty contest. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 13, Deja Q, written by Richard Dennis, directed by Sirach's good buddy Les Landau. This was February 3rd, 1990. Where were you? How you doing today, Sirach?
Very good. Very good.
So, this was
you said what day was it? February what?
February 3rd, 1990. I wonder what we were doing February 3rd, 1990.
I know exactly what I was doing. No, I have no idea.
Yeah. Putting away our pink windbreakers, you know.
Yeah.
So this was a Q episode. This was a very, very Q episode. In fact, 2/3 or 75% of the stuff that I've got written down is Q lines. Q says this, Q does that, Q's funny here, Q does this. But here's and there are a lot of very memorable and memeable moments. There are some, like when he appears naked, laying down. That's a memeable moment. The mariachi band is quite the memeable moment. That is also all over the place. So there are a few of these things. The Picard face palm. There are a lot of these iconic images that I forgot were in this episode. And then when I see them, I'm like, oh, this is, you'll see a lot of things, Star Trek memes, Star Trek groups, Star Trek jokes that incorporate a bunch of scenes from this episode. But here's the big question. What did you think about this episode? You've never seen it before.
I've never seen it before, no. I'm conflicted about Q because Q is supposedly this all-powerful, supreme intelligent being, but he doesn't act intelligent. And that's that's the part that bothers me so much. It's like, how can he be so smart and so well traveled throughout the universe and then still act like petty and obnoxious? And it just seems beneath somebody who would have that much experience with all of these different alien races and have, all this power and ability. Why waste your time on certain petty things? Why put so much energy and thought into the ridiculous? And that's what bothers me about the Q character. Even from the beginning, started out kind of like this. What I did like about Q was the putting humanity on trial aspect, which did resurface a little bit in this episode, where he starts to examine how humans behave, even to their own fault of allowing him to exist and trying to save his life. And I like that reflection on humanity aspect of him. And that's the part of him that to me is intelligent. He's holding a mirror up to humankind and saying, these are your flaws and these are your strengths. It is the way in which it's delivered to me that is too comical for supreme intelligence, supposedly.
Now, that's an interesting point that he has seemingly evolved or de-evolved since the first episode, right? The first episode, he was magnanimous and theatrical and dark and foreboding, right? And now he's like, giggle town. Oh, look at me.
This outfit, I don't like the color.
Yeah. So I wonder how that evolution happened. If it happened if that was kind of always the plan, or if, as happens a lot of times, the writing evolved because of the actor. They saw that the actor was also funny, and he could deliver things in a silly and almost Shakespearean way. You know, he's clearly classically trained, and so they're like, "Huh, he's really funny." And so they went in the direction of humor, but then that works great with the actor, but it is in conflict with the character we were initially introduced to.
Yeah, to a large degree, because there was a bit of a playfulness when we were first introduced to him. And I guess when I first saw it, it was like, okay, let me question this, and I gave it more leniency because I wasn't sure what was going on. But now that I know that you are, this supremely intelligent, I think he brags about a 2005 IQ points or something like
Yeah.
that. Okay, if you're that smart and you can figure out everything and you have the power of this omnipotence about you where you can remove gravity and time and space bend at your will, then some of the things that they write for his character do not align with that level of understanding of the universe and how it works. Um, you know, the little jabs, the comical jabs, some of them I enjoy. I kind of like the one where he hits Worf with "Eat any books lately."
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite lines ever. Eat any good books lately? And
Yeah,
then Worf says something like, "Captain, permission to clean up the bridge" or something. I mean, or no, maybe
yeah,
that's a different one. But there's a lot. There were actually a lot of really good and funny moments that I was surprised were. You know, there was a lot of good ones. But yeah, it he's supremely intelligent and supremely unenlightened and unwise. You know what I mean? Like it's this
yeah.
weird dichotomy. It's this impish, omniscient
Which
being.
even the Q in this episode, the other Q, is complaining about. Like, yo,
Right.
bro, you're you're acting immaturely.
Right.
You
So
know?
that tells us that they're not all like that, that this is particular to this
Yeah,
specific cue. That's right. I hadn't thought of that.
yeah. So it's like I don't. So they even point that out in their writing in this episode, which is ironic to say the least, right? You're actually pointing out that he is doing unQ like things as as this kind of a being. So um, that's what bothers me because I equate supreme intelligence with a balanced, measured approach that is, thought of and conceived from so many different angles of understanding that there would be this peace, this harmony, this zen about
Right.
him, like a this Buddhist type of zen. But it's quite the opposite. He's very all over the place and switching here and hot 1 second, cold. Let me get up 10 chocolate sundaes. I'm not hungry anymore. It's like just all over the place.
Yeah. When I saw that chocolate sundae scene, um, because I wasn't 100% sure what was going to happen or what was going on, I guessed, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's gonna like try eating them all and then like cut to him being like, now my stomach hurts again, but I'm not hungry. What is it? Well, you had too many chocolate
That's what I
sundaes, you
felt
little
too. Actually, I was
rascal.
expecting that same. I was expecting to see the chocolate sundae eating scene, which I
Yeah.
was a little bit disappointed that he canceled on because I was gearing myself up for the exact same thing you said, which is your stomach hurts again, but now for something different. But they didn't give it to us. Um, yeah, that's my take on Q. So not to dash the performance because obviously John Delancey is giving us a performance based on what the script says and how it's supposed to be done. Whatever's written on the page. I'm sure he can play it any way that you ask
Mm.
him to play it. This is just an example of his range being able to cover like you say, the dramatic Shakespeare, and also the kind of comical, you know, big kid stuff. Like when he started off, like I don't like these colors. I thought to myself, like he makes Wesley looks like like a full on adult, you know, like
Oh wow, that's right. There was no Wes today, and no non-appearance mentioned for him that I caught. And
yeah,
Troy had like one line, but that would have been funny if Wes was there. Now, I thought Riker had a couple. Jonathan Frakes has absolutely mastered the no line look. You know, last episode he did it. I think it was last episode when he's looking at Picard. You know, he's like, and then he said, and then Picard said something like, "I don't want," or maybe Riker said, "I don't want to be the guy there when she beams up." And
yeah,
today in today's episode, when Picard's like, "Beam the shuttlecraft back into the shuttle bay," and Riker's looking at him like, "Are you sure you want to?" I'm not saying. I'm just
yeah,
saying. Like,
yeah.
and then of course Picard said it's a perfectly good shuttlecraft, which is funny.
It's
But
a
then he
great
also
line.
had a funny look when they both get cigars in their mouths. Picard's like, you know, but Riker's like, oh, you know, he's kind of funny about, I mean, just that whole thing. Or obviously when the ladies show up, you know. So Jonathan Frakes has mastered the everyman, like we know what he's thinking. We identify with what he's thinking. His facial reactions
Yeah.
reflect what we're thinking as viewers in a lot of ways. Crack
Or
me
they
up.
could be lines themselves, like when he does look over at Picard and like you want to bring this guy back, like we just solved our problem, you know. He took it on himself. He wants to
Right.
leave, you know.
And he's got that twinkle in his eye and that smirk. He's
Yeah,
just like, oh,
yeah.
I mean,
Very good facial reactions. I enjoy Jonathan Frakes in these kinds of moments where he gets to play um, a little bit pissed off, a little bit irritated. There's a thing about him, a playfulness that I like. It's a serious playfulness.
yeah, there are a few of those. You just mentioned a couple. Now, I first want to start off by going to the beginning here. Those aliens with their mouths. That was interesting. And
Oh, bro. Yeah,
yeah, they
yeah,
forgot what they're called. Everybody in the live chat or in the comments below, remind us what those aliens were called. The place was Brielle 4, so maybe they're the Briellans or the Brielli or something like that. But when then that noise hit on the bridge, right? And that
yeah,
that screeching noise, and I'm like, that worked. I was extremely annoyed by that noise. I've never usually when they on a TV show or a movie when they're like,
yeah.
cover your ears. It's to us, it doesn't really, you're just like, whatever. I guess it's annoying. But this time it was legitimately annoying to me. I was like, you guys gotta do something about this.
Well, it's funny because I too was annoyed by that noise, but the first thing that I saw when we reached Brielle 4 were these aliens, you know, that they were talking about this moon that was going to strike the planet imminently, so they needed the Enterprise help. But I I thought to myself, oh, real aliens again, because the last two episodes we
Right.
had we had aliens that were basically humans with like a streak of gray across, or the other ones before that weren't even, you could even see anything that made them alien.
Yeah.
Uh, so this time we actually went back to aliens with makeup on, as opposed to just those guys are aliens, but they look exactly like us.
That's a good point.
Um,
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, the previous two episodes were humans through and through. human. It wasn't even like a human with like a silly thing on their forehead. It was just like, all right, we've been overusing our makeup budget. You guys take a
Yeah.
couple weeks off and we'll reconvene for episode 13
Exactly.
and then go nuts. And then they just created this whole alien race
Exactly.
for what? For three monitor scenes, you know? Like that
Yeah,
was it.
they did. So that was kind of fun. I was like, oh, they brought the real aliens this time. Shout out to makeup department.
Hmm.
Um, those were some unusual looking aliens. And actually, one thing that I noticed too is they differentiated a lot of the kind of small differences between the male and the female in that particular in that shot.
Like what?
There were there were differences in the facial structure. Now maybe that's because of their faces just being different, and it made them apply the prosthetics on a different way. But
Yeah, it
I
seemed like
thought
the lady's mouth was more
yes,
smaller
yes,
and more
yes,
circular, whereas the dude's was a little bit wider and more oval
yes,
shaped.
and he also had more of wrinkled ridges in his face, where hers was more smoothed out. And I was like, she's got better skin. She uses good skincare products,
Yeah,
so it makes sense to me.
yeah. The what were they called again? I already forgot. The
Uh,
Brielle
yeah,
4. But I don't remember if that's what the race was called. I'll look that up.
they were
Brielle.
brilliants.
So,
But yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Q,
Oh, and
Q showing up naked though. That I just I don't know. Well, floating. Was he floating? Like he was floating in the air, or I didn't
yeah, he
understand where he
was.
was. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, how can he do that if he doesn't have his
yeah,
powers? I don't know.
yeah. I can. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there was a yeah, I don't know. It was a little tough for me, but here's a dirty little secret on my part. I don't really understand the Q stuff. Like I get it. I understand what's going on, but I guess I don't really understand 100% how I feel about it. I remember on my first watch, when I was a kid and I watched it, I I think I liked Q, but I wanted to like him because it was like he's omnipotent. He's all powerful, all seeing, which I basically just repeated what I just said, but in different words. Uh, and so you think, wow, that's really cool. What an amazing being, whatever. But then, yeah, sometimes I'd be like, oh, this guy's kind of annoying. But then the writers are like, but that's the point. He's supposed to be annoying. Like, yeah, I guess. But, like, it's and I love the actor. I thought John Delancey did an amazing job, and I love the the frenemies kind of thing, mostly enemies with Picard and Q.
Yeah.
Very combative, and like how Q plays with Picard, like a cat plays with a mouse. So I mostly like it, but I am a little conflicted. So I see where you're coming from on this, where you're just kind of like, what's grating here? What's bothering me about this? And for you, it
So
seems
yeah, exactly. So it's like, what is the lesson? Usually you get the lesson. There's two warring tribes, and this guy is oppressing the other, and we have to see that it's not good to oppress people.
the
Makes sense
lesson
to
was for
me.
Q. He
Yeah,
learned the lesson, and Data
which is
kind of did.
which is a remedial lesson though, like a lesson you would teach to a 3-year-old. Like, be nice. Like, that's the lesson. Like, be nice. Like, how long does that take a kid when you're teaching a 4-year-old? Be nice. It's like, so it's like not even that difficult. Or share your toys. I mean, just like, like that's a selfless act, right? Like sharing something like a birthday cake, or your
Mhm.
bicycle, or your He-Man, or your Legos. You share toys or something, and like try to be the kid that doesn't share, or like, no, you can't play with my toys, and see how far that how far that goes for you when you're like, you don't want to share anything or you don't want to play with others. So a selfless act is something that we learn at a very young age. But if you want to have a good time and you want to have fun with friends and you want to make friends, you do selfless act type of things, like let people play with your ball. You show up to the football field with a football, and you're like, no, I'm not throwing it to anybody. It's like, okay, good luck with that.
Yeah, I think that just kind of gave me a little miniature epiphany here. Is that Q doesn't have manners or etiquette or consideration or compassion or empathy or bravery or anything because he's never had to. He's never faced a bully. He's never overcome fear. He's never not gotten what he wanted. He's never been a 4-year-old saying, I want this thing, and mom saying no. How would we be if we got everything we ever wanted? We could do everything we ever wanted to do, and we just spent our days just playing with everything. It's like you're just a child forever. You could just play with this race, and then you destroy it, and you go, okay, whatever. What's next? You never had to deal with loss. So he never learned any lessons in his entire existence. So yeah, this was his first lesson. All the other times he's trying to teach lessons and failing at it, but he thinks he's so wise and see, I taught you a lesson, Picard. And they're like, just get out of here. God. But this time he actually learned something. He's like, huh, things suck when they suck for people. And then he got his powers back, and so now he's not going to care again. He was already going back to torturing, and the only reason he let those calamari people go, or the calamarains count to 3 people.
Yeah, I thought of the same thing.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah, the only reason he let him go was just because that other Q, I was calling him Q2. He showed up and was like, so he didn't learn anything. He almost did. He learned something, then he got let out. It's like you do something bad, your parents say, okay, you're grounded. And you go, oh man, this sucks. And they're like, okay, you're not grounded anymore. Oh, cool. You're not gonna learn that lesson very long.
Yeah, it's just the playfulness. There was a moment though, and I guess we'll get to it on the other side of the break, that I did kind of like about Q, and that'll be my little cliffhanger.
I like Q too. Sweet. Sweetie. So all right. I guess that's our
very good.
That's our cliffhanger for the day. Sirach will tell you what he likes about you. I mean about Q. Right. On the other side of the break. And we'll be right back in all seriousness on the 7th rule.